Welcome to Classroom Dynamics, a teacher podcast. I'm your host, Adam Todd. Get ready to tap into the power of motivation and innovative teaching strategies. Together, we'll ignite a love for learning in your students, fostering an inclusive environment where every child can thrive. Join us on this transformational adventure that empowers you to unlock your full potential as an educator. This is Classroom Dynamics, where inspiration meets innovation. Welcome to Classroom Dynamics, the podcast where we explore the innovative changes to technology in education in bite-sized form. Hi everybody, I'm your host Adam Todd, and today we have an incredible educational leader to introduce you to, Eric Sheninger. Eric is a renowned educator, speaker, and author who has dedicated his career to transforming education and empowering students and teachers alike. With over 20 years of experience in education, Eric's expertise lies in the integration of technology and digital learning strategies. His goal? To create innovative and engaging learning environments. Throughout his career, Eric has held numerous leadership positions, including serving as the principal of New Milford High School in New Jersey, where he spearheaded a dynamic transformation by leveraging technology and implementing a student-centered approach. His efforts at New Milford gained national recognition and led to the school being named a Blue Ribbon School and a Digital Promise School of Innovation. But Eric's commitment to educational excellence went way beyond his own school as he worked with districts across the globe to revolutionize teaching and learning practices. As a respected international keynote speaker, Eric has inspired educators at conferences and workshops worldwide, sharing his vision for the future of education and providing practical strategies for success. He's also an accomplished author, having written several influential books, including Uncommon Learning, Creating Schools That Work for Kids, and most recently, Disruptive Thinking. Eric Sheninger's impact on education continues to resonate, and we're honored to have him join us here today, and it's all coming up right now on Classroom Dynamics. Calling all educators, are you ready to inspire creativity and engagement in your students? Unlock their full potential with content creation. Imagine empowering them with cutting-edge tools like the Blue Sono microphone from Logitech, which ensures crystal clear audio quality for impactful projects. Logitech offers a full range of content creation solutions, from audio equipment and cameras to lighting and editing software. Plus, they have a suite of education solutions tailored for classrooms, elevating the learning experience for students and educators alike. Empower the next generation of creators by exploring the possibilities at logitech.com/education today.
Your world is about to change from this to this. Promethean is here to help streamline your transition back into the classroom with our award-winning active panel that will transform your classroom from this to this. No matter what tools you need to tackle this next school year, we've got you covered. Learn more at prometheanworld.com.
He's an educational leader, a technology advocate, and an author. Please welcome Eric Sheninger to Classroom Dynamics. Welcome to the show.
Awesome to be here. Excited to chat.
Thank you. I really do appreciate the time you're taking out for us today.
No worries.
So I'm really excited to have you on because I've been following you on social media for years now. I mean, I think probably ever since you probably started with social media, and your message is also so strong and always remain constant and so inspirational to teachers. And I think that's what really enhanced my technology, just the understanding and the purpose. Just can you take us back to where it all started? What got you, in your career, what got you into technology or even just educational leadership?
Yeah, well, what got me into technology was a traumatic experience, but I'll backtrack in terms of leadership, then I'll come back to the technology piece. When I became a teacher, I coached 3 sports. I advised the environmental club. I really wanted to try to have as much either direct or indirect impact on students. And my father was a principal for over 30 years at the same school in New Jersey. And I guess in a sense, I wanted to make a bigger difference, but I also wanted to be like dad. And, after some time in the classroom, I pursued my degree in administration, and the rest is history. I then eventually became an administrator in the New Milford School District in New Jersey. I served various roles in a brief amount of time. I was athletic director, vice principal, and then before I know it, before I knew I was principal, where I was in that position for 8 years. And, with technology, at the time I was a little bit younger. I was in my 30s. I thought I had it all figured out. I really thought that the key to being innovative was just having access to the stuff, state-of-the-art computer labs, interactive whiteboards. However, there were things that were a no-go in my book. I wrote the policies in my district to block and ban social media. Students were not allowed to bring devices to school. Very limited use during instructional time. And then my traumatic experience was after I got done chasing a student through my school because he broke our cell phone policy, and he was so afraid of me because I was going to take the device for a year. He thanked me for creating a jail out of what should be a school. And that was the first kind of punch in the gut. The other, I wouldn't say it was a traumatic experience, but it was an enlightening experience, was shortly after that student laid into me in a respectful way. I got on social media, and I swore I would never be on social media. I got on Twitter in 2009 as an early adopter, and Twitter helped me take the blinders off and really set on a path to A, be a better leader for my teachers, B, be a better principal for my students, but C, truly create an efficacy-based culture where technology was used in a purposeful way to support and enhance what the research told us was already effective. And that's where I am today.
Wow. I mean, I think that mirrors a lot of what I've experienced as well, in terms of, yes, you could have that interactive whiteboard. You could use those devices, but using it to enhance the learning experience, I think, for the kids, and almost in that 2009 to present day, this gray area that is now starting to change and evolve into something else and become that transition zone between what we used to think and how we used to teach versus all these tools, all the websites, and all the bells and whistles that are out there that teachers and kids now have at their fingertips.
Yeah, and I think you brought a very intriguing comment, bells and whistles, and that's what we have to be cognizant of.
Mm-hmm.
Just because students are using technology, just because you're using technology as an educator, it doesn't mean that it is automatically an innovative practice. Innovation is new, better, but actual result that substantiates new and better. And, what I always, really think about is, two things. How are students using technology to learn in ways they couldn't without it?
Mm.
And number two, if you're an adult, how does your use of technology represent a fundamental improvement over what you did in the past without it?
Right.
And if you can't answer those questions, it's okay not to use technology. And I think the key thing is, yes, the adults might use it as a part of really, really sound tier 1 instruction, but we want to get to the point where our learners are using it to create, communicate, collaborate, as a way for them to demonstrate mastery in a variety of ways.
Right. No, I couldn't agree 100 more than, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you said it perfectly. Let's go back when you were a kid. You were talking in your most recent book, Disruptive Thinking, which I love the title, by the way. You grab and hook any fan of technology, whether it's a teacher or anyone out there, and you talk about the 1960s animated cartoon, The Jetsons, and how influential it was to you. Especially, with predictions and just kind of like what the future, like an idea of what the future could possibly look like, even though it was a cartoon. For me, it was Star Trek. I think it was this, and it's the same idea, the communicator, the the holographic images, just the doors opening and closing, talking to a computer, literally like a Siri would. So it's those kind of things that inspire people. But with you, what's one thing that people may not know about you that influenced your attraction to technology besides that? Or was that it?
No, that was not it. Even though the Jetsons accurately predicted Zoom meetings, teledoctor visits, online classes, I then, you saw that, but, you focused on the here and now, my focus was on the 8-track, the boombox, the Commodore 64, the Apple IIe, Atari,
the
Game
Commodore
Boy.
64.
Yeah, and my first flip phone, my BlackBerry. But I really think, and it took me a while for it to register. I think what really got me into the benefits and opportunities of technology was Mr. South, who I also talk about in the book. Mr. South was my 7th and 8th grade science teacher. I went to a K-8 school in rural New Jersey. And yes, there are rural parts of New Jersey, everybody. And he asked us, how will you colonize Mars? And the class had to answer that question. And he put us in teams. He used the cooperative learning jigsaw method, where each team was a piece to the puzzle. Well, how do the pieces fit together to help us colonize Mars? And he let us choose. We think about choice. He was doing choice way back in the 80s. He had us do research to choose an innovative solution that would help the class colonize Mars. My partner and I found through our very intense research using the encyclopedia a device called the mass driver. And a mass driver was like, you mentioned Star Trek, it was like a hypothetical space cannon that would be on the moon and would basically propel resources using gravitational forces from the surface of the moon to Mars, where it'd be caught on another device. We didn't have to just research. We had to build working prototypes. We used technology. We actually, using wires and circuits and batteries, we actually, through our research, built a working prototype that shot toothpicks. Then he had us sign permission slips and go to his creepy garage on the weekends, which you can't do anymore. And I always say creepy because it was in the middle of nowhere, but it was like a technological haven. And we built a larger prototype that shot tennis balls. So you think about choice, you think about personalization, purposeful use of technology. He then had a 5-point rubric for our research paper that we had to write. So it took me a while to really put the pieces together that none of this is new. And that's what really holds educators back when they see a new tool. They see it as just another thing they have to do. They don't have time. Good teaching is good teaching. Learning is learning. Leadership is leadership.
Right.
To answer your question, it really was Mr. South that unintentionally put me on the track to where I am today.
Does he know that? Have you ever had a chance to actually tell him that?
Oh,
Was this just it?
I dedicated one of my books.
Oh, wow. Nice. Very nice. That's great. So, I mean, obviously you're a great, enthusiastic and very energetic communicator. You really portray through story, and just having the opportunity to hear you even now. And I've heard you before, this is not the first time I've listened to you. Being able to address audiences around the world and have those experiences, talking to hundreds, if not thousands of people at times. I've done that a couple of times at ISTE. I know you have as well. Is that what, doing those kind of big conferences, really interacting with an audience, is that what it kind of reaffirms the importance of your work and your drive to educational excellence, so to speak?
That's a tricky question because, there are some people that their goal is to be on stage. And for me, that's part of it, but I don't want to be seen as the sage on the stage. And what I try to do when I get on stage is, you want to use brain research. You want to touch on emotions. You want to get people laugh. You want them to maybe shed a tear. But I want people to leave not just with hope, but a concrete idea on how they can do this. And the one thing that I weave into all of my keynotes is that qualitative evidence. I'm showing what the pedagogical changes can look like through the lens of teachers, of administrators, K-12. So yes, I love getting on stage and doing that. But if I wasn't in classrooms, if I wasn't working shoulder to shoulder weekly with teachers, administrators, coaches, I think my message would be pretty substanceless. And, I visit thousands of classrooms every year. One of my non-negotiables for myself is that I have to spend time in classrooms so I have the needed context, so I know the challenges that educators are dealing with, but then how I can kind of show the importance of feedback loops and how educators, they want timely, practical, specific feedback. But to share those successes, there's no bigger motivator than success. Success breeds success. Right. And here's what educators always tell me, Eric, we know the why. We hear it everywhere. Every speaker talks about the why. We need to know, how do we do it? And what can it look like? So I look at my role as multifaceted. And even though I cannot say that I am a practitioner because I am not employed by a school or district, I make sure that I spend a great deal of time shoulder to shoulder with those people whose stories that I'm then fortunate to share when I am on stage.
I think getting into the trenches and doing that is probably at the forefront of what it's all about. And it actually brings us, it's a perfect segue into my next question. So, even with disruptive thinking, you encourage educators to be risk takers, to try new things and kind of step out of that comfort zone, be innovators in their classroom. What strategies or advice would you give to teachers who may be a little hesitant to step outside of that comfort zone and adopt that disruptive thinking mindset? What kind of things would you give to them as a takeaway that they can actually implement?
Yep. And before I answer your question, I kind of just wanted to, since you mentioned disruptive thinking, I kind of want to define that.
Yes, please.
Disruptive thinking is the ability of our learners to replace conventional ideas with innovative solutions to authentic problems. Now, notice there is no technology. It is inferred that technology is one of many ways to become a disruptive thinker. But when we think about disruptive events, the pandemic, the most disruptive event to ever impact education. The other major disruptive event that we'll talk about on this podcast, because some things we don't want to talk about in terms of challenges that educators are dealing with. But technology is a disruptor. Think about it. 6 months ago, no one knew what ChatGPT, Bard were. We knew what artificial intelligence was, mostly from Skynet and Terminator. However, now it's here. So for educators, here's the thing, everybody. We are naturally afraid to take risks. And the idea here is, what I can say unequivocally is, in education, we do not really have true accountability. We don't get rid of ineffective teachers and administrators. So what I always say is, what are you really afraid of if you're doing this for the best interest of kids? You could plan the best lesson. I remember when I was a teacher, I would spend so much time planning what I thought was the best lesson, and it tanked. And you know what? That becomes an experience that we learn from.
I think that's happened to everybody at some point, right?
So I think taking the risks with technology is, let's use backwards design. When you think about the goals you're trying to accomplish, work back from your learning target, which is your unpacked standard or standards. Think about the high effect strategies that you will use, and then figure out, how will technology allow me to do what I should already be doing better? And when I think about risks, I don't even think about a risk. I always say I think student voice is the catalyst for the purposeful use of technology. Why? Because in almost every whole group lesson, we are going to use reviews of prior learning, checks for understanding, and closure. Okay. Technology can allow you to get every student to respond. It then gives you, as an educator, formative feedback that allows you to then go and either reteach or have the confidence that you're moving in the right direction.
Right.
Without that technology, it is hard to get that information. Just understand, everybody, we take risks every day, personally, professionally. It's part of life. I don't look at it as a risk. I look at it more as an opportunity,
Right.
an opportunity to improve your practice.
And that last word you just said, practice, right? Practice makes perfect. We're not, trying to mold perfection with the kids. We can't do that for ourselves, that's for sure. So I think practice in a educational setting is probably the best place, the most safe place you probably could have to take those risks.
And you brought up a good point, perfection. There is no perfection in education.
Mm-hmm.
Is no perfect lesson, teacher, administrator, school, district, system. That perfection does not exist. You don't have to be perfect.
That's
what you should
true.
strive to be is the best iteration of yourself for your kids and your colleagues.
I love that. Yeah, that's I'm going to make that into a poster.
Yeah.
So in a recent Bet Show interview on YouTube, you rightfully asked the question, and I love this: are we preparing our kids for the new world of work? So just that one question for whoever's listening, should open their eyes, their ears should pop up, their attention should be on that one line, because when we say everywhere, we now truly mean worldwide. And so what skills, in your opinion, are essential for students to develop in order to thrive in a rapidly evolving landscape of the modern workforce that's starting to go in from that gray area into many colors throughout the world? Does AI even play a role in that? Does coding play a role in that? How does that all come together?
All right, you layered many questions on me, so I'm going to respond. First I want to say that, our focus should be, don't prepare students for something, prepare them for anything. Because we don't know what the world is going to throw at us. That's why disruptive thinking is so important, where, students are replacing conventional ideas with innovative solutions to authentic problems. And I'm also going to now push back. And I think the focus on skills is a bit short-sighted. Here's why. You could be skilled at throwing a baseball, but totally incompetent as to how to play the game of baseball. Now,
great point.
I'm not saying skills and knowledge are not important. They are. They are the foundation to build competencies. We don't need a skilled workforce necessarily. In this world, in the knowledge economy, we need our learners to be competent. We need them to be creative scholars, collaborative learners, active engagers, reflective learners. So in the book, I kind of, flesh out what competencies really could look like. And in a nutshell, competencies take into account skills and knowledge, but also behavior, aptitude, mindset. So I think those competencies of, what I try to do is build upon, when we think about critical thinking, collaboration, communication, all those C's, but really think about, what is it our learners, what are those dispositions? What are those competencies? Are they able to self-regulate? Are they able to manage their time? Are they able to employ an empathetic lens? I mean, these things are vital because the knowledge is there. And I think the opportunity we have is to help when we think about AI. So that was the other thing. I think I now have all the sort of questions
all the bullet points are there.
AI is up the game, because where Siri, Alexa could answer who, what, where questions, we could do searches on Google Scholar for peer-reviewed research. AI answers how and why questions. And that should give us pause to really look at not just the questions we're asking our learners, but the tasks and the assessments that we're using. It really is now forcing our hand to go to a more project-based approach where students have to create something, whether as simple as a video, audio, while they're in class. Because outside of class, they could just do the stuff through AI and get all that information. Also, I think it's an opportunity to have our learners vet what they see on AI. I see trends, very repetitive words, not really linking to, evidence or research to support the claims, all that. It's being pulled from all over the web. Right. I mean, AI presents a copyright nightmare because it's pulling that information from somewhere without due credit. So I think there's opportunities, but also there's some things that we need to be cautious of.
So are we spending time on going back to skills versus collaboration and all the other points that you mentioned? Are we spending, is it more of like, I don't want to say a waste of time, but is it more obsolete, some of the skills that we're spending time on that we could be spending more practical time on doing something else?
Yeah, I mean, obsolete's tough, but if we're being honest, many education systems, the structure and function was designed for a world that no longer exists. It was designed for an industrialized workforce. And what did we see? Mass model. All kids doing the same thing at the same time, the same way.
Right.
We now have so much information about how kids learn. We all know that does not work. It doesn't work for us. It doesn't work for learners. So I think it's how we begin to transition a little bit. And, I always try to say when I work with teachers and administrators, you're still going to teach. You're still going to do direct instruction. But if it's content overload, then we're missing the point, because after 15 minutes tops, they're going to zone out. So I think it's really looking at how we, for those competencies to materialize, moving from direct instruction whole group to more personalized experiences. And I define personalization in the book as all learners getting what they need, when and where they need it to succeed. And when you look at the pedagogy behind personalization, through most of which are blended approaches, rotational models, choice activities, playlists, flipped classrooms, virtual asynchronous opportunities, those naturally begin to build those competencies because you're taking in the knowledge, the skills, but then you have to show the ability to self-regulate, to collaborate, to manage your time, to do it with other people. And that's the key thing. Competencies are inherent on how you interact with others. So that interaction of learners with each other is so important in the teaching and learning process.
Bottom line, 100%. I think we'll end on that one, but I'd still have 2 minutes left with you, if you don't mind.
All right. Fire away.
Now it's going to get hard because we're going to play a game called Input Output.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you a question. Just give me the first thing that pops into your mind. Okay, here we go. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, let's do it. All right. Favorite app or website at the top of your bookmarks bar that on your computer that you just can't live without?
Pinterest.
What's more exciting, the leap in educational technology over the span of the last 5 years, or the rise of artificial intelligence?
The last 5 years.
Why?
Because that's what really got me into this space and really enamored me. And I really think that we still have so many opportunities inherent on what's been in front of us the last 5 years that we don't want to go chase the next shiny thing. You mentioned that before.
That is very true. That is very true. A lot has happened over the last 5 years that I think we're still taking in, especially because of COVID and that whole span of time that I think people were trying to figure out, wow, I never used technology before. Now I'm being forced to, I have to, and they kind of had to teach themselves a little bit or have people like us teach for them. Best piece of advice anyone ever gave you?
It was, my job as a principal was to prepare my assistants to be principals. And that really helped me focus on building leadership capacity, not just amongst my administrators, but also my teachers.
Favorite edtech conference that you always look forward to attend and why?
Oh boy, that's tough. I think I'd have to say ISTE, just because it is the gold standard and you just get a crosswalk of people from all over the world who share a common passion.
So before you mentioned that you try to visit thousands, or at least about 1,000 or hundreds of classrooms every year. What's your favorite conversation that you've had with a student that you're always going to remember?
Yeah, my favorite conversation is when they can really articulate why they're learning what they're learning and how they're going to use it outside of school. And I had such an intriguing conversation, with a third grader who was really able to zero in on that meaning, that authenticity, that relevance. And just looking at the body language, you can just see that they had a sense of engagement, empowerment, but more importantly, ownership over how they were spending that time.
My wife's a third grade teacher. I'm sure she's going to appreciate that answer. If you could go back in time when you were a kid and, watching those Jetson episodes, and you were able to give yourself one piece of technology from today, what would it be?
Well, I thought you were going to ask me advice, but I think, the one piece of technology, I think I would have said to not resist the smartphone as long as I did. The BlackBerry transformed my behavior in social spaces, and I fought it for a long time. And I wish I would have started using that sooner, which would have put me in the social media space sooner. And then I could have been a better principal years earlier than I eventually became.
Wow. So you actually think that one marker of time could have enhanced you a little bit sooner than, wow. Okay. That's good. That's interesting.
Space 2 to 3 years earlier.
Wow. So talk about success. Success is always good to have, but what's one failure you might have had that people may not be aware of?
When I told my teachers to use technology because the little blue bird started chirping in my ear. And then I wrote memos and I sent emails and nothing changed until I grabbed a non-tenured teacher and I asked that teacher, hey, why are you not changing? I've given you everything. And that teacher looked me in the eye and said, Eric, we're not doing it because you're not doing it. I failed because I was not modeling. Don't do what you have not done or are not willing to do yourself. That is what I learned from that failure.
Wow, that's a great answer. Finally, if you can challenge someone to make one small change in their classroom for the better, what would it be?
Yeah, I think the one small change is just make sure you provide clarity. Everything we do doesn't matter if kids don't understand the purpose of what they're going to learn. Kids aren't always excited about history, ELA, math, science, phys ed, the arts, but providing that clarity and going back to the work of Madeline Hunter, having a hook, an anticipatory set, an activity that really gets the kids motivated in the first couple minutes is something that we know works, but it's something that we might not always be cognizant of.
Well, listen, this has really been a lot of fun. I truly appreciate your time that you took to sit down with us and talk to us today. And I just want to thank you again for joining us.
My pleasure. And everyone, be sure to check out Disruptive Thinking in Our Classrooms. It's available on Amazon and it's full of practical examples from teachers and school systems across the country.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I really, this was a lot of fun. I actually learned a lot more that you kind of don't, you got to kind of get in between the lines there. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah. The more we talk, the more we get different perspectives of our experience.
Yeah. We're going to have you on again later, another time. I really appreciate it. Well, I'd like to take this opportunity to extend a huge thank you to Eric Sheninger for joining us today on Classroom Dynamics and for taking time out of his busy schedule as an educator, an author, and a speaker just to sit down with us for a few moments and share his insights on the integration of technology and education. His passion for revolutionizing the classroom experience and harnessing the power of technology to empower both educators and students is truly inspiring on its own. And if you've been on the fence on whether or not to do more with technology, I hope you become inspired to start that process now. I'm grateful for the knowledge and wisdom he's imparted, leaving all of us with a renewed sense of excitement for the future of education. And that brings us to the end of this episode of Classroom Dynamics, where knowledge and inspiration meets innovation. I hope you've enjoyed today's discussion and found it both insightful and uplifting. As always, my goal is to provide you with practical strategies, engaging stories, and powerful insights that can fuel your motivation as an educator. I believe that when knowledge and inspiration do come together, incredible things can happen in your classroom. And for all of you who may feel that it's too late to strengthen your craft, I challenge you to make it your mission to do so. You've worked hard to get to where you are today, and it's never too late to infuse new life into your work. So why not make today that day to do so? I'm Adam Todd, and you've been listening to Classroom Dynamics, a teacher podcast. You can follow Classroom Dynamics on Twitter at Class Dynamics. If you haven't already, go to Apple Podcasts to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. And if you know a teacher who may benefit from today's show, please share it with them. We'll be back soon with more captivating conversations, inspiring stories, and strategies that you can implement into your everyday routines. Until then, keep igniting that spark in your classroom and never stop believing in the incredible impact you have as an educator. You're more powerful and inspirational than you think. Are you a dedicated educator searching for fresh and engaging resources to inspire your students? Look no further than Highly Motivated on Teachers Pay Teachers. Discover a treasure trove of easy-to-use lesson plans, vibrant visuals, and interactive activities designed to captivate young minds and ignite their love for learning. Unlock the potential within your classroom with Highly Motivated, from differentiated lap books to test prep passages on a multitude of topics. Our wide range of materials cater to most elementary and middle school grade levels. Join the community of passionate teachers who have already transformed their classrooms. Visit Highly Motivated on Teachers Pay Teachers and get ready to inspire, motivate, and empower your students like never before. Highly Motivated on Teachers Pay Teachers, where knowledge meets inspiration.